The Divine Might Heavenly Sage is already the strongest in the chaos. It's impossible to surpass him without a huge opportunity. The mysterious voice entered Azure Heaven Mystic's ears again. Azure Heaven Mystic seemed to sense something and suddenly turned around. He saw a figure walking over from the horizon. Lotus flowers bloomed under his feet as he walked leisurely. This figure was formed like the wind. It was difficult to see its true appearance. It was mysterious and unfathomable. "Who are you? Tell me your name," Azure Heaven Mystic shouted in a low voice, his heart burning with anger. This person definitely wanted to sow discord between him and the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. He wanted to be on par with the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. He only wanted to catch up, he did not hate him. He was a Heavenly Tao Sage. How could people from the Heavenly Tao kill each other? I am the carefree immortal who travels the chaos to find the great creation. Your potential is already top-notch in the chaos. You are even more outstanding than the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. Unfortunately, there are only 7 types of great creation in the chaos. If you can't obtain one, you won't be able to surpass the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. He chuckled. His tone was ethereal and unfathomable. Azure Heaven Mystic frowned and asked, "What 7? Carefree Immortal?" He had never heard of him. However, the other party's words interested him. There are 7 supreme rules above the 3,000 Great Tao. The previous Divine Authority General who ruled the chaos was one of the 7 supreme rules. It was also called the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority. The ancient desolate Divine Spirit forcefully devoured a supreme rule and could have fought with the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. However, he suffered a backlash from the supreme rule and finally fell into eternal damnation, Carefree Immortal said slowly, impressing Azure Heaven Mystic. This person is definitely not simple. Definitely stronger than me. Azure Heaven Mystic thought silently and continued asking questions. The battle between the Divine Might Heavenly Sage and the ancient desolate Divine Spirit caused a long-lasting discussion in the chaos. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju opened his eyes. The ultimate god of punishment had yet to be successfully enslaved. He had no choice but to release the million geniuses in advance and throw them out of the 33rd heaven. Tao Sovereign, Zhao Xianyuan, Jiang Yi, Han Yu, Qin Ling, and others were also among them. They looked at each other in shock. Their wills had always been in chaos. It was unknown what had happened over the years, but they seemed to have a dream. At this moment, a large number of powerful auras flew over from the chaotic cities around the Heavenly Tao. It's really them. The Divine Might Heavenly Sage didn't lie to us. In the past 100,000 years, the Divine Might Heavenly Sage has been eliminating the hidden injuries in their bodies. Indeed, that ancient desolate Divine Spirit is extremely vicious. He definitely has a backup plan. We should be cautious and ask later. My son, you're still alive. The void became lively for some time. Knowing that the ancient desolate Divine Spirit was already dead, Tao Sovereign and the others were extremely excited. Ha 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 ha, as expected of my master. Zhao Xianyuan laughed loudly, attracting respectful and grateful gazes. So this was one of the Divine Might Heavenly Sage's disciples. No matter what, the Divine Might Heavenly Sage was these geniuses' savior. His prestige was already unparalleled in the chaos. Not to mention anything else, the Heavenly Tao had obtained the admiration of many worlds in the past 100,000 years. Now, there were already more than 1,000 subsidiary worlds, surpassing the 3 pure sacred worlds in one go. More and more factions began to curry favor with the Heavenly Tao. At the very least, they had to express their goodwill. Instead, the 3 pure sacred world was isolated. Hanju only spared a glance at the situation outside the Heavenly Tao. With the foolish sword sage around, Nothing could go wrong for the time being. No one in the current chaos dared to provoke the heavenly Tao unless he believed that he was stronger than the ancient desolate divine spirit. Hanju continued cultivating and waited for the ultimate god of punishment to be enslaved. 300,000 years later, primordial heavenly prison has successfully enslaved the target. The ultimate god of punishment has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, max. Hanju opened his eyes and looked at the ultimate god of punishment beside him. After the enslavement succeeded, the ultimate god of punishment also regained consciousness. As expected of an existence at the perfected Great Tao Supreme Realm, it actually took 400,000 years to successfully enslave him. The ultimate god of punishment stood up and knelt down in front of him. Greetings, Master. The leader of the divine spirits knelt in front of Hanju with a solemn expression and a respectful tone. From today onwards, you will continue to be the leader of the divine spirits and follow your previous plan. As for our relationship, you are not to tell anyone, understand? Hanju said indifferently. He was a little bored upon seeing the ultimate god of punishment's respectful attitude. He could already feel the loneliness of invincibility. The ultimate god of punishment immediately accepted the order. Hanju instructed again and waved him out. He checked the emails. Over the years, his circle of friends had been very harmonious. There had been no large-scale attacks. Hanju was glad. After reading the emails, Hanju came to the third Tao field and called Han Qing'er and Han Huang over. After entering the temple, the two of them knelt in front of him excitedly. Hanju smiled. You've grown up. I won't stop you if you want to go out in the future. His children shouldn't be in danger with the ultimate god's care. Really? Father, are you enlightened? The two of them asked in unison. The second sentence was said by Han Qing'er, making Hanju speechless. What was she saying? Han Qing'er knew that she had said something wrong and hurriedly said, I mean, why are you allowing us out now? Han Huang chuckled. Other than the ancient desolate divine spirit, who else in the current chaos is our father's match? Hanju glared at him. When walking in the chaos, don't be arrogant or underestimate anyone, understand? Understood. Understood. The two of them replied in unison. That day, the two of them bid farewell to their mothers and were sent out of the Tao field by Hanju. They first went looking for Jiang Juesher and Liu Bei. Jiang Juesher looked at his junior brother and junior sister and smiled kindly. Where do you want to go? Actually, the chaos is not that fun. Han Huang smiled. I have to find the evil heavenly emperor. I promised him that once I go to the chaos, I'll go to him first. Han Qing'er shrugged and spread her hands. I'll definitely follow my second brother. Otherwise, what if I'm bullied? As long as Han Huang's cultivation did not touch the Great Tao Supreme Realm, he would almost not be injured. However, to the chaos, very few people knew about the Great Tao Supreme Realm, including most Great Tao sages. They only knew that there was always someone stronger. Senior Jiang, let's go together. Han Huang smiled and said, your potential is very strong. I've seen many Great Tao sages and even the 5 Great Divine Punishers. They're all inferior to you. Why do you have to stay in seclusion here? We can dominate the chaos if we join forces. Other than my father, who else in the chaos is our match? Father said that the chaotic assembly will still be held. At that time, we will fight in the chaotic assembly. The eternal peak can only belong to one of us. Han Huang's words caused ripples in Jiang Juesher's calm heart. Eternal peak. The title of the strongest prodigy in the chaos. Who did not want to obtain it? In the past, Jiang Juesher might have been afraid of attracting trouble, but now, his master was the strongest in the chaos. What was he afraid of? Jiang Jueshe wavered. Liu Bei saw through his thoughts and smiled. Then go. Perhaps this is also a form of training for you. Go! Don't snatch my disciple. More and more living beings were being born in the universe of stars. The first batch contained talented people with limited numbers. That's right. Let's go! Stop dawdling. Han Huang patted Jiang Jueshe's shoulder and urged him. Han Qing'er also stared at him. Han Huang and Han Qing'er immediately beamed. Han Ju began to observe the primordial world after his children left. He had just broken through not long ago. He was still far from the next breakthrough. Furthermore, the next realm was the Tao Creator realm. It was not easy. However, there were only chaotic fiend celestials for the time being. There were no other living beings. Moreover, the existence of living beings did not affect Hanju much. Hanju suddenly thought of the ninth chaos. Could it be that the living beings of the chaos did not affect the chaos much, so the ninth chaos did not care at all? As long as the chaos itself was not destroyed, the ninth chaos would be left to the chaotic mighty figures. Hanju wouldn't care if the chaotic fiend celestials fought in the primordial world. Even if one died, a new chaotic fiend celestial would be born. He could continue to create the fiend celestial chi with the grand unity aspect. It had to be said that the grand unity aspect was indeed impressive. Although it was called a Dharma idol technique, it was actually 3,000 Great Tao. This was a mystical power given by the system. It could be seen how deep the system's background was. Thinking of this, Hanju asked in his mind, is the origin of the system related to the 5 Tao creators? No karma. No! That system could only be related to the primordial chaos. Hanju thought silently. At this moment, another line of words appeared in front of him. Tao creator? Hanju clicked his tongue in wonder. Was he finally going to reveal the true nature of the system? Besides, if not for the system, how could he be where he was today? If there was really a dead mighty figure who created the system, Hanju would try his best to satisfy his intentions as a form of repayment. However, Hanju felt that the system was not created by a certain existence. It was more like a rule. The system had been operating like a machine without any spirit for more than 9 million years. Of course, it could also be hiding or have lost its memory. He had to think about all of this after he reached the Tao Creator realm. Several hours later, Hanju stood up and started to stretch his muscles. It's time to relax for a while, Hanju muttered to himself. Then, he went to find Xing Hongxian and Qing Waner to ask if they wanted to go out for a walk. Women! However, to his surprise, the 2 women rejected him. That day, Hanju's words when he fought the ancient desolate divine spirit resounded through the chaos. They also heard it. After that, they were filled with fear when Han Huang described how powerful the ancient desolate divine spirit was. They understood why Hanju wanted to reminisce with them. He was afraid that something would happen and didn't want to leave any regrets. A little bored, Hanju went to the second Tao field alone. All 3 Tao fields had a trace of his will to prevent any accidents. Tao Comprehension Sword kept asking about the details of his battle with the ancient desolate divine spirit. Hanju didn't hide anything. The ancient desolate divine spirit was indeed very powerful. I had no choice but to fight him seriously, Hanju said seriously, causing Tao Comprehension Sword to roll her eyes. Liao nodded in agreement. The faster the battle ends, the more it means that you're serious. You're serious enough to catch me off guard. I defeated him openly this time. There was no surprise. Hanju snorted. In the past, he would deliberately say nonsense to divert the enemy's attention before attacking. Liao looked at him in admiration, making him very happy. Of course. Let's talk about the Tao. Hanju smiled. Several days later, Hanju and the two women walked out of the Taoist temple. Liao's expression was natural, but Tao comprehension sword was blushing. The 53 chaotic fiend celestials immediately rushed over with excited expressions. Greetings, Sect Master. Greetings, Grand Master. Greetings, Master. Hanju waved his sleeve and smiled. Sit down. I haven't preached the Tao to you for a long time. It's time to talk about a fortuitous encounter. Everyone began to flatter him. In the second Tao field, they had nothing else to do other than cultivate. It was very boring, so the battle between Hanju and the ancient desolate divine spirit was very exciting to them. Moreover, the influence of this battle was still there even after hundreds of thousands of years. Every time Tao Sovereign and the others entered the myriad worlds projection, they would mention the influence of this battle. 3,000 years later, they finally woke up one after another. Their cultivation levels had improved, and many insights into other great Tao appeared in their minds. Hanju was already gone. Murongchi sighed. What realm is Grand Master at? He's really mysterious. Guan Bubi smiled. Ha ha ha, you definitely won't be able to guess it, but you can guess my realm. I'm about to attain the Great Tao. Me too, the Crimson Fox said confidently. They were all chaotic fiend celestials with unparalleled potential. After Hanju's lecture, the door of the Great Tao had already appeared in front of a few chaotic fiend celestials. While the chaotic fiend celestials of the second Tao field were still discussing excitedly, Hanju had already arrived outside the 33rd heaven and was reminiscing with Heavenly Venerate Xian Du in the Universal Hall. He was not pretentious and asked Heavenly Venerate Xian Du to treat him as an equal like before. He felt that this was the best way to deepen their relationship. Including the foolish sword sage and the sacred true martial Buddha of the Buddhist world. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du glanced around and said, all the sages in the Heavenly Tao are already here. Heavenly Sage, let me introduce you to them. This is a great Tao sage from the chaos. His name is Immortal Ancestor Chenyu. Immortal Ancestor Chenyu immediately stood up and bowed to Hanju. Even a great Tao sage looked nervous when facing him. Hanju pinched his fingers to deduce and the hall fell silent. Immortal Ancestor Chenyu was extremely nervous. Actually, Hanju didn't need to pinch his fingers to deduce him. However, others wouldn't be able to tell what he was doing otherwise. He wanted to express his stance. Be it rejection or acceptance, it meant that he had passed. However, Hanju deduced that Immortal Ancestor Chenyu's negative karma was not great. He was also open and aboveboard and had never done any great evil. As for whether he had blood in his hands, he naturally did. It was impossible for him to not kill as he cultivated to the great Tao Sage realm. Not bad, Hanju said, since you're here in the Heavenly Tao, don't mind the past. From now on, you will consider yourself as part of the Heavenly Tao and have the duty to protect it. Although your cultivation level is high, you still have to listen to the Heavenly Venerate. If you contribute, the Heavenly Tao won't ostracize you. With that said, Immortal Ancestor Chenyu heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly thanked him. The Heavenly Tao sages smiled. They actually felt a sense of danger, afraid that the mighty figure from the chaos would directly squeeze out their status. Fortunately, the Divine Might Heavenly Sage was sensible and did not differentiate between cultivation levels. Then, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du introduced a few local sages of the immortal world. Their excitement was obvious and they did not have the bearing of sages. Hanju nodded one by one. He didn't put on airs on purpose. Instead, he obtained a 5 or 6 star favorability. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du began to talk about the recent development of the Heavenly Tao. The domain of the Heavenly Tao had been expanding. It had expanded extremely quickly over the years, mainly because its providence had increased quickly. It was worth mentioning that some powerful mortal worlds below the immortal world had already transformed into great worlds, as powerful as the immortal world before the calamity. Currently, there were already 12 great worlds and nearly 200,000 small worlds below the immortal world. Hanju grew distracted as he listened, but his expression didn't change. It made the sages very serious, and they didn't dare to let down their guard. Hanyu looked at his ancestor and sighed. He was filled with shame every time he thought of how his ancestor was the strongest in the chaos. He felt that he was not worthy of his identity as Hanju's descendant. Li Xianao was the proudest. He felt that he had followed the right person. The other hidden sect disciples were fine and were already used to it. Several hours later, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du finally finished. Hanju said, "You don't have to ask me about who to appoint as new sages. You can discuss it among yourselves. I've heard enough. That's all." He stood up and took 2 steps before disappearing. The sages hurriedly stood up and bowed. They didn't dare to neglect their manners even though Hanju had already disappeared. Hanju left the Heavenly Tao and started to wander in the chaos. After killing the ancient desolate divine spirit, the chaos was no longer a threat to him. Only outside the chaos could his life be threatened. In the divine spirit domain, on a circular platform, dozens of great Tao divine spirits gathered. The 5 great divine punishers also came. Etien's face was filled with disdain. The other 3 divine punishers also revealed excitement. However, Han Tuo was very calm. Actually, they all wanted to see the attitude of the ultimate god. They weren't the only ones. The other great Tao divine spirits were the same. After all, the ultimate god of punishment's words represented his support for the ancient desolate divine spirit. After the ancient desolate divine spirit died, hundreds of thousands of years passed before the ultimate god of punishment appeared. The great Tao divine spirits were all curious if he had been taught a lesson by the divine might heavenly sage. They could underestimate the ultimate god now, but they did not dare to underestimate Han Tuo. After a long while, the ultimate god of punishment's appearance immediately shut the deities up, and they did not dare to say anything. The great Tao divine spirits still knew how to hide their emotions. Only Yi Tian was stubborn and stared at the ultimate god of punishment provocatively. "Silence!" Han Tuo hurriedly pulled him back. The great Tao divine spirits secretly despised him. This fellow was really a fool. However, his words did carry weight. At least, the great Tao divine spirits did not dare to show their disdain. The ultimate god of punishment said expressionlessly, "The matter of the ancient desolate has been resolved. Everything is as usual. The chaotic assembly is still the top priority that you have to prepare for. As for what you're worried about, there's no need. I've always been good friends with the divine might heavenly sage. It was before and it will be the same in the future. I only said that I won't stop the ancient desolate divine spirit, not that I'll target the heavenly Tao." The great Tao divine spirits nodded in disdain. "Look at you, you must have been dealt with by the divine might heavenly sage." Yi Tian snorted and did not continue. The ultimate god of punishment ignored him and continued, "In view of the huge impact of the ancient desolate, the chaos cannot repeat the same mistake. Now, the most dangerous place is the bottom of the chaos. Every one of you needs to send 100 freedom cultivators to guard the bottom of the chaos. I won't mistreat them. There will definitely be great opportunities in the future." The great Tao divine spirits agreed. No matter what, the ultimate god of punishment had already reconciled with the divine might heavenly sage. At least his status was still stable. Thus, they had to listen to him. Han Tuo secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He actually admired the ultimate god of punishment, but he was afraid of the ancient desolate divine spirit. Fortunately, his father had already resolved these problems. He respected his father even more. Not only was his father powerful, but he also far exceeded him in terms of dealing with people. He would still use former enemies when possible, but kill them when they were useless. The ultimate god of punishment continued to issue a few orders. They were all related to the chaotic era. He did not mention a word about the heavenly Tao. After the ultimate god of punishment left, the 5 divine punishers also left. As soon as they left the divine spirit domain, the great Tao divine spirits caught up to the 5 great divine punishers and began to warmly invite them to their respective Tao field as guests. Time passed. Peace returned to the chaos after the ancient desolate divine spirit died. As the enthusiasm of all living beings towards the divine might heavenly sage decreased, the chaotic assembly became a hot topic of discussion. The ultimate god of punishment increased the reward for the chaotic assembly. Other than the eternal peak and the chaotic 10 absolutes, the rewards for the top 10,000 were very generous. It was enough to make all living beings go mad. In the depths of the chaos, on a continent, Azure Heaven Mystic floated above the endless sea. The waves swept up with him as the center, stirring up shocking waves. It was a spectacular sight. Behind Azure Heaven Mystic was a figure that looked like him. It was green and red and emitted great pressure. Boom! The waves suddenly exploded and seawater bloomed in the sky. Azure Heaven Mystic opened his eyes and frowned. What cultivation technique is this? Something's wrong. It doesn't seem like the Great Tao, but it contains many Great Tao truths, Azure Heaven Mystic muttered to himself as his eyes flickered. At this moment, the carefree immortal suddenly appeared and smiled. It's indeed not the Great Tao, but something stronger. Azure Heaven Mystic's eyes lit up. Could it be the Great Tao Providence divine authority you mentioned previously? Carefree immortal smiled. That's right. The 7 supreme rules represent the 7 Great Tao Providence divine authorities. Other than the one you are cultivating, there are currently 2 Great Tao Providence divine authorities rampaging in the chaos. One is the Divine Authority General controlled by the leader of the Divine Spirits. He represents slaughter. The other is the Calamity Life Controller of the Life Faction. Speaking of Calamity Life Controllers, you have to pay attention to one person. The current Life Lord, Huang Zuantian. This person is also from the Heavenly Tao. Heavenly Tao? Azure Heaven Mystic asked in surprise, Huang Zuantian? There are so many capable people in my Heavenly Tao? Wait, I seem to have heard this name before. He thought carefully and came to a realization. I remember now. The Life Faction appeared a long time ago. Several sages of our Heavenly Tao were captured, including Huang Zuantian. The strongest in the chaos came from the Heavenly Tao. The Life Lord who controlled the Calamity Life Controllers also came from the Heavenly Tao. Azure Heaven Mystic glared at him. The Divine Might Heavenly Sage is not a petty person. Carefree Immortal shook his head and laughed. Oh you trust the Divine Might Heavenly Sage so much. How can you surpass him in the future? Then what if the Divine Might Heavenly Sage persecutes you? Impossible! Azure Heaven Mystic shouted firmly, secretly furious. This fellow always tried to sow discord between him and the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. If not for the fact that he wanted to cultivate the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority, he would have long fallen out with the Carefree Immortal. Carefree Immortal did not say anything else. The two of them continued to discuss the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority. The blue clouds gathered in the palace during the day. In the most majestic numinous palace, Han Huang, Han Qing'er, and Jiang Juesher stood proudly in the hall. The 2 rows of immortals sized them up with different expressions. The War Buddha and the Black Heaven General stood in front and stared at them. Ha ha ha, Huang, You really came to see me. Qing'er, right? This is the first time I've seen you. From now on, you are the divine might princess of the heavenly court. Your status is second only to me. The evil heavenly emperor smiled. Such willfulness, but no immortal god dared to question it. Firstly, the evil heavenly emperor was very prestigious. Secondly, they could not offend him. Han Qing'er beamed. That's not good. Right? There's nothing bad about it. It's settled. Who is this prodigy? The evil heavenly emperor smiled and waved his hand. Then, his gaze landed on Jiang. Jiang was easily ignored as he stood beside Han Huang. However, the evil heavenly emperor was sharp and could tell at a glance that he was not simple. In addition, he felt that he had seen Jiang somewhere before. Jiang cupped his fists and said, "My name is Jiang. I'm a disciple of the heavenly Tao's divine might heavenly sage." The evil heavenly emperor raised his eyebrows and asked, "What's your relationship with Jiang Dugu?" Jiang replied, "We are brothers, but we have long lost contact. I don't know if he's alive." The evil heavenly emperor was enlightened. He remembered that Jiang Dugu indeed had a biological brother back then, and he had even joined the human school because of him. However, his potential was not good and he died early. Wait. This fellow was only a few million years old and had no traces of reincarnation. How did he do it? There was a secret. No wonder Hanju liked him. The evil heavenly emperor smiled. "Since you're Hanju's disciple, you're also my disciple. Stay in the heavenly court for a period of time. Don't be in a hurry to leave." Han Huang smiled and said, "Your Majesty, we were traveling the chaos and thought of our agreement, so we came here first." All right. Huanger is really sensible. Pass down my orders. The heavenly peach banquet will begin early. The evil heavenly emperor stood up and smiled. The immortals were in an uproar. The heavenly peach banquet was a grand event of the heavenly court. It had been passed down for a long time. The immortals looked at Han Huang and the other two with burning eyes. Even the evil heavenly emperor had to fawn on them. How could they miss it? Just like that, Han Huang and the other two settled down in the heavenly court. The war Buddha quickly became friends with him, like a lackey who often pestered him. Jiang was close to the evil heavenly emperor. The two of them felt like old friends at first sight. They talked about the past and the present as if they were close friends. Several years later, discover EW chapters at Novel by Co. The heavenly court began to expand again. Han Huang and Jiang also became famous in the next 10,000 years. Hanju sat in an inn and drank chaotic spirit wine while listening to the cultivators at the next table talk about the heavenly court's recent move. The current heavenly court was also famous in the chaos, especially with the addition of the son of the heavenly sage. Han Huang had already made a name for himself. All the cultivators who had seen him would exclaim, "He's definitely at the peak of history." Hanju was very calm upon hearing about his son's prestige. It was normal. After all, he was a primordial fiend celestial. Life is here. With that, Hanju felt several powerful auras. They were all great Dao sages. Li Daokong, Shi Du Dao, Huang Zuantian, Ancestor Shi Tian, and the others were hiding here for some reason. Hanju could deduce it, but he didn't do that. He only felt that they were here. At this point, the Life faction's actions could no longer affect him. Hanju let them develop naturally. This time, he wanted to give Li Daokong a chance to hide without difficulty. After millions of years, the Life faction was no longer as notorious as before. Because they had done many good things in this chaotic domain, they had left a good name. Huang Zuantian stood proudly on the city wall. Beside him stood ancestor Shi Tian, Li Daokong, Shi Dudao, Jing Tiangong, and the other Calamity Life controllers. The street below was filled with figures looking at them fervently. Huang Zuntian glanced around and smiled. Today we will only recruit 10 people. Other than refining the primordial chaos Dao fruit, you also have to have the chaotic merit. At most 100 thoughts, I will lead the life faction to the next land of karma and spread the karma of the Calamity Life controller. I will open peace for the chaos and inherit the great Dao. His voice was very loud and echoed in the city. The entire city cheered after Huang Zuntian finished speaking. Although Hanju didn't see it with his own eyes, his wolf saw Li Daokong smile. It had been a long time. Life had already transformed. At first glance, they looked like a group of good people working hard to save the world. Hanju didn't go out. He watched for a long time until the life faction left. He still didn't walk out of the inn. Li Daokong was already a freedom sage and was not far from attaining the great Dao. Perhaps this was his fate. The Calamity Life controllers were actually not absolutely evil. It was just that the philosophy of the first Life Black Sovereign was wrong. The Calamity Life controller was the great Dao Providence divine authority and was deduced by the supreme rules. Previously, it was not accepted by the chaos because it was not qualified. This was also good. Everyone had their own path. Shi Dudao was the same. His smile was the same as Li Daokong's. Hanju shook his head and laughed. Then, he stood up and left. He would visit them in their dreams in the future. He would help them again if they changed their minds. Oh. TAS. To some people, fate was very difficult to change, but to Hanju, he was the one who determined fate. For the next period of time, Hanju continued to travel the chaos and visit his disciples. Dao Sovereign, Zhao Xinyuan, and Jiang Yi still followed Lao Dan. They wandered in the chaos and never settled down. Zhou Fan was also developing his great Dao Tower. It was not bad. Most of the other disciples were in the heavenly Dao. Some established inheritances, and some promoted Dao techniques. They were all on their own righteous path and were active and not confused. Hanju saw them one by one with different identities. Only Han Tuo he did not look for. He was the safest with the ultimate god of punishment watching over him. In the blink of an eye, more than 20,000 years passed. Hanju returned to his Taoist temple and started a new round of cultivation. The perfected Great Dao Supreme Realm was not enough. Above the endless sea, azure heaven mystics sat in the air. The surrounding waves curled up as if they wanted to connect the sky and the sea. 3 green and red figures also meditated behind him. They leaned against each other and surrounded them. On the beach 10 million kilometers away, Carefree Immortal held a broken shell and looked in the direction of the blue sky through the hole. This kid is still lacking, Carefree Immortal muttered to himself with a subtle expression. I have to arrange an opponent for him. He casually crushed the shell into dust and grabbed a handful of sand. With a casual splash, the sand floated in the air and formed 2 words. Divine Punisher. The 5 great Divine Punishers are very good opponents. The corners of Carefree Immortal's mouth curled up as he vanished. Azure Heaven Mystic opened his eyes the moment he disappeared. This fellow finally left. He stared at me for so long. Azure Heaven Mystic grinned and fled, quickly jumping out of this world. Azure Heaven Mystic was in a good mood as he traveled through the chaos. He had the heroic aura of a bird flying freely in the sky. Dog, you keep instigating me to hate the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. Do you really think I'm brainless? I'll be the first to find trouble with you when I master the Great Dao Providence Divine Authority. However, you've done me a favor. I won't kill you, but I have to teach you a lesson. There are some people you can't scheme against. Azure Heaven Mystic thought proudly. He was very fast, afraid that the carefree immortal would catch up. He was heading towards the heavenly Tao. Azure Heaven Mystic was looking forward to the scene of the carefree immortal facing the divine might heavenly sage. He wondered if this fellow dared to say anything bad then. 100,000 years passed quickly. Hanju opened his eyes and looked satisfied. Even though he had reached the perfected Great Tao Supreme Realm, his cultivation speed did not slow down. 100,000 years was enough for him to feel his cultivation level increase. His gaze landed on Ancestor Tiansu. Ancestor Tiansu had already stayed in the primordial heavenly prison for 100,000 years and had yet to be successfully enslaved. The reason he did not kill him was that he did not have any hatred for him. This fellow hated the Tao Ancestor. There was no need to kill him. It was better to keep him as a fighter. It just so happened that Hanju also wanted to know something about the Tao Ancestor from him. The Tao Ancestor's karma couldn't be deduced, so Hanju couldn't figure it out. There was no Tao Ancestor among the 5 Tao creators. He was illusory. He had to be wary of such an existence, especially since he was related to the heavenly Tao. The Tao Ancestor might even be hiding in the heavenly Tao. Hanju started to check his emails. His circle of friends over the years was very lively. Most of them were cultivating and encountering opportunities, as if they were all rushing to the chaotic assembly. Speaking of which, the chaotic assembly was still more than 5 million years away. It was still very far away. Discover EW chapters at Novel by Co. At that time, only the great Tao sages were qualified to fight for the chaotic 10 absolutes. At this moment, Hanju seemed to sense something and looked up. Another person had attained the great Tao. In the past million years, several great Tao sages had been born, more than before. The existence who had attained the great Tao this time was an acquaintance of his. To be precise, it was a familiar aura. Fusong Tree. Hanju's gaze landed on the Fusong Tree. The current Fusong Tree was even taller than the entire heavenly Tao. It had billions of branches, and the flowers and fruits it bore were countless times larger than stars. It was like an ancient divine tree that had been born from the chaos. Hanju showed a frown. The Fusong tree's breakthrough speed surprised him. He discovered that there was more than one great Tao aura on it. From the point of view above the chaos, the Fusong tree was actually absorbing the Tao power of the 3,000 great Tao. Although it was very weak, it was indeed doing this. Something was wrong. The Fusong tree did not have such an ability before. Hanju began to deduce and discovered a powerful aura that he hadn't felt for a long time.